So, to continue the thought on investing that I was talking about in the last video, the investor's mindset is interesting. I don't know if I've fully fleshed out yet where I come out on this, but I am developing, I think, a deeper desire, deeper commitment, I think, to investing. And the investor's mindset is, I think fundamentally what it is it's prioritizing future growth over immediate benefits. So there are lots of good ways to invest in the future, and the most important one is laying up treasure in heaven. And I think we probably don't talk nearly enough about that investment. So in that sense, I think there's giving and giving generously can be viewed as a part of your investment strategy in terms of financial investments, but also in spiritual investments. It's kind of like the intersection there, if you will. So I think that's one of those investments that's hard maybe to quantify, right? Since it's harder to get a tally on like, hey, what's my investment in, well, what's my treasure in heaven doing? How's that my heavenly portfolio? How's it coming along? But I think it's still good to make regular contributions there for sure. In terms of earthly contributions or earthly investments, I don't know if I've fully figured out where I'm at in all of that. I think that it's certainly easy and certainly possible to approach it very much from a laying up treasure on earth for myself. Is certainly one approach to it. And obviously one that I think Jesus took a very dim view of, because of the temporal, for whatever other reasons, for covetousness and etc. But also, Jesus seemed to be very practical about this, and the idea that he wasn't against laying up treasure, but he was against laying up treasure that would not endure. And so, your Roth IRA is not going to endure in the sense that, it may endure beyond your lifetime, depending what your, I don't know how that all works on the disbursement at the end of life and whatever, but yes, your wealth may last for generations in a sense, but it's not going to last for you for generations, right? It's going to be for someone else. And, that being said, I think there's still... So I guess there's a sense in which we should think of financial investing as medium-term investing, right? So you might say that a short-term investment would be something like going to work every day and making money. So that's investing my time. It's on a very short time frame horizon potentially. So let's say I have a day job. I'm not just an employee. I'm an employee. Being an employee can be very well paid. It can be very valuable. So I shouldn't say just an employee, okay? But in other words, the reason that I would maybe use just an employee in this illustration is the idea that you don't have stock in the company. The long-term outcome of the company doesn't directly correlate a lot to your pay. It's just you punch in the hours, you do the work. As long as you don't get fired, you get a certain outcome from that. Basically a paycheck, and that's about it. Or maybe if you do really well, then you get a little, get like a 5% increase the next year or something like that. So, so that would be a short-term investment, right? It's going to work and getting a paycheck. Long-term investment, I think sometimes we get trapped in this thinking a little bit of like, well, I will just amass greater and greater wealth, and it's somehow going to be more and more amazing Now, I think that one way to kind of justify this is like for future generations, like I'm going to leave a legacy of wealth for them. And I think you can argue there's some scriptural basis for it, as far as like that's not a maybe a bad thing, or maybe it's a good thing even. Um, but I think it's easy to kind of get trapped in this idea of like more is always better. So, like for instance, if I could invest, let's say I invested lightly and ended up with $1 million at retirement, or let's say I invested heavily and continued to invest as long and as hard as I could, and at the time of my death, so that I had $50 million, and or it was worth $50 million. Now I had never maybe really utilized any of that money. I lived very sort of stingily, if you will, like both on myself and for others. Um, I'd be like, wow, I really won, I really achieved something because I amassed all this wealth. But it's kind of this trap of like thinking that this is long term when it's not. Like it's not. The money in your bank account is for you, is only for as long as you live, and after you're dead, it's somebody else's, and it kind of doesn't matter anymore. So, I think the better way to approach it, or at least the way that I'm thinking that I need to approach this more, is in terms of the medium term. So, medium term I would view as having sort of a balanced approach, so that at every stage of life, I'm having a balanced, say every stage. It's going to vary, but I'm going to make a thoughtful calculation on where, on what I need currently to live and to survive, and what kind of lifestyle I want to have. The lifestyle that I want to be able to have in the future. And when I say lifestyle, it may be like, for instance, I want to be able to spend less time making money so I have more time for other pursuits. And it could also mean, or it could mean that I know I still want to be full-time working until I'm 80, but I want to be able to give much larger amounts of money at that stage than what I can right now. So, it's not that, in other words, it's investing with purpose, I think. And a purpose that goes beyond validation, self-validation, right? So, if I'm investing as self-validation to show that I'm worth something, I'm significant, I'm successful, and and then in that case, probably there's no amount of investment that will really genuinely fulfill that, because there's no amount of money, essentially, that can, if you have a real hole in your inner being around success, validation, and self-worth, money is not going to be very good at fulfilling that in most cases. Now, it may help, it may bandage a little bit. It's not really going to do the trick. So, where I think I want to end up at more, so that would kind of be the sort of example earlier of the sort of extreme of like, doing everything in my power and ending up with $50 million when I'm dead. And that somehow having translated into a meaningful life. That's not where I want to, that's not the mental sort of trap that I want to fall into. And I think where I want to be is more in terms of what does it mean to faithfully steward what God has entrusted to me. I think stewarding more is probably more fun. So I want to, I think, steward more. And I think it also involves this is maybe something that's a little bit hard to predict, but at least to have some conversation with God around how much wealth to steward is like what I need to fulfill His purposes. So, like for one person, to do what God calls them to do in the world, they may need $20 million. For another person to do what God wants them to do in the world, they may need $50,000. And I cannot look at your life and tell you, unless I have prophetic revelation, I cannot tell you which of those two that it is for you. And I think that's why, I think that's a conversation or a thought, prayer, whatever that I need to have with God, is like, how does money factor into your purpose for me? And money, I'm using that as a loose term, as like assets and whatever, but so that when I'm investing, it's purposeful towards the goal of stewardship, of living a life, and that makes sense too. So it's like, so I can have good judgment, make good decisions between my family's current needs and desires, and the future of what we, as a family and individually and all that, what we need and what we're going to want in the future. So yeah, I think that. Anyway, thanks for sticking with me here as I kind of ramble a little bit and kind of try to sort out for myself what I think about investing. But I felt in myself recently a growing conviction, a growing desire, commitment to approach life with an investing mindset, to do it wisely, to do it in a balanced way, to do it without the love of money, is my desire on that. But to not just put it off, and to I think there's a certain, the way I'm geared, I think there's a certain motivation that I have to see things grow, and perhaps more my style is more to see them grow through strategy or strategic moves than it is through just pure grunt. And so that I think is part of the appeal of investing, is like putting something into something today because you project that in the future it's going to be more valuable. And so I think that's just part of the fun of investing, is trying to figure out, what's a good investment, what makes sense, what do you think about the future? What do you think the opportunity is here? And I think that, searching for opportunity and, if you will, making bets on it, I think is part of the fun of life, and part of what's cool about investing. So anyway, if you have thoughts on how you're investing, how you think about investing, and how you're finding a good pathway through it all, then put it down in the comments.